Hi, my name is Scott White. I'm going to be presenting a lesson on vocabulary, reading, and writing based on observations in Mr. Norman's 8th grade social studies classroom. My findings for vocabulary in Mr. Norman's classroom is that he has students highlight words that they feel are important or that could be considered key terms at the beginning of the lesson in their interactive student notebook. The interactive student notebook is created every time they have a new unit, and they turn it in at the end of every unit when they complete the test. The main thing that they do that they are required to highlight is the title of the lesson, because the title of the lesson is a key term. For example, the lesson that he gave was on the Missouri Compromise. This lesson was so important because it prevented the Civil War for 30 to 40 years. The Compromise did. And then during his lesson, he also brings up past vocabulary words. For example, the Missouri Compromise covered a lot of new territory that President Jefferson had bought about 20 years before, at the turn of the century, of the 19th century, called the Louisiana Purchase. When he brings up the Louisiana Purchase, he readily asks students, what is the Louisiana Purchase? And then moves on. This way, it serves as a refresher, and it also adds to show students why you need to know previous knowledge, because it's building on knowledge you previously learned. Reading. Mr. Norman uses multiple kinds of reading with his class. There have been occasions where he requires students to read silently and independently. There have been occasions where they have to read the same thing a couple of times, once independently, highlight words that they are unsure of or that they feel are important, and then they discuss it and then they read through it as a class. For the day that I was there, he read out loud with the class. He has cards, playing cards, with the students' names on it. And in order for students to make sure that they're following along and learning, he will randomly call on the student with these cards. It could be at the end of a paragraph, it could be mid-sentence, it could be at the end of a sentence. It was just randomly to ensure that students are reading and listening to what they read. Having both reading and listening to what they read, it reinforces the learning that they are completing. Completing the learning that they have means that they can build more knowledge and they won't have to sit down the night before the test and study. Writing. Mr. Norman, at the beginning of every lesson, has an essential question to the lesson. This question is usually somewhat lengthy. For the Missouri Compromise, he used, what were the 3 effects of the Missouri Compromise? The question the students write down and are expected to answer by the end of the lesson. He allows the students at the end of the lesson maybe a minute, 2 max, to discuss the question with their partner. During that discussion, they can share, this is my opinion on the matter, this is what I think is the answer to the question, and discuss the answer so they can get a better have a better answer by incorporating other people's viewpoints. Maybe they were not paying attention and they need some extra help. Okay. Also, during Mr. Norman's class, he also requires DBQs, document-based questions. Document-based questions are used when students are asked an essay question, usually regarding a document or a couple of documents, and are required to take a side, whether it be right, wrong, support or not support. And they have to use reasons from the document to back up their standpoint. These DBQs are randomly given out, usually at least 1 per unit, but they are usually only a paragraph long. He also has students take notes. These notes, though, however, are very much curtailed to 8th grade. He very much goes over what to write down, what is not important for students. It is not like a college classroom where the professor can lecture on and you're supposed to determine, okay, this is important, this is not, this is a major piece of information, this is a minor, etc. He does curtail it to where it's easier for them because they are still learning to take notes. And a lot of them will actually write down everything he says, thinking everything he says is important when it's not. Analysis. So I drew up a hypothetical comparison. I like a lot of what Mr. Norman does. He incorporates vocabulary. The one thing I really would want to incorporate in my classroom would be explicit vocabulary words. Here is the actual vocabulary list for this lesson or for this unit, and not let the students have such freedom in highlighting and determining what is important and what is not. The DBQs are a great way to have students voice their opinion and be able to develop their writing. As a history major, it's very important to write and be able to write your opinion on an issue, whether it be on a war, on a civil rights movement, etc. And I really would want to incorporate that into my class as well. I also like how he has the essential questions. The essential questions, in essence, are the California state standard for that lesson. Now, when looking up the California state standards, they are complicated. They are very much written for an adult to read, not a 12, 13-year-old student who is still learning the English vocabulary. And a lot of the times don't comprehend what the standard is. The essential question is broken down into plain, simple English. This is the goal of this lesson or lecture, and that is that. The nice thing about Mr. Norman's class is that he also tells the students, for every lesson you will have at least one essential question. That essential question will be guaranteed to be on the quiz and on the unit exam. And I would almost guarantee from talking with Mr. Norman that it'll be on the final exam as well. These essential questions can become very lengthy. Some of them are multiple sentences. Others are just one sentence answers. I also like how he incorporates past vocabulary words. It makes students not only learn new content, but also keeps in the back of their mind, hey, I still need to remember this because this is still playing a role. For example, the Louisiana Purchase. It was still playing a role when the Missouri Compromise came around, for when two states are admitted to the Union, one free, one slave. Thank you, and that is my presentation.